The reason why I think that is dead now is with AI, you can actually do 100 user tests in a couple of hours, and you don't have to sit down and watch 100 videos because AI is watching the videos for you. AI is summarizing what it's learned so far, and AI is making recommendations of what to do to fix the problems that come up. So you can say, out of these 100 user tests, 95 of them had the same problem, but it wasn't very severe. But these 7 people had it, and it completely stopped their ability to move forward. What people do a survey because they want statistical significance. They want enough data to be able to make decisions. So you get to marry the quant, which is the decision-making power of a large sample size, with the qualitative, which is the understanding of why people are doing what they're doing. So that's you can marry the two with AI-powered user testing or AI-powered surveys or AI-powered interviews.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ignite podcast. Today we're thrilled to have Chris Hicken, co-founder and CEO of Theysaid, an AI-powered user testing and research platform. Chris was the 4th hire and president at UserTesting.com for 8 years, where he took the company from a few $100,000 in sales to just under $100 million. Since their IPO, UserTesting and all of its major competitors have been acquired by private equity. Wow. Which created a great opportunity for Chris to get back into the category and build the next generation of feedback tools. The way the world builds products has changed dramatically with vibe coding, MCP, AI code editors, agents, etc. And Chris is staying at the cutting edge by giving builders a way to get feedback rapidly while they build cool stuff. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Hey, bud. Thanks for having me on. We've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm glad we're finally making it happen.
Yeah. So Chris and I are old friends. I've literally stayed at his house. So we spent the last 20 minutes catching up before we started recording. So just a little context if we feel kind of chummy. But yeah, I'd love to start with kind of the core question, which is like, I said a little bit about your background, which is incredible, but maybe you could just give your origin story real quick and we'll kind of dive into your founder journey.
Yeah, well, the work story is, I can kind of summarize it as I've been building startups pretty much my whole career. I'll start with UserTesting.com, which was, it's kind of, I believe it's the biggest product that's used by design and UX research teams in the world. It went IPO in 2021. I left there to start a company called Nuffsaid, and we'll talk more about that later. But it was a tool that aggregated all of your apps, all of your work apps into one place. So your email, your Slack, your calendar, your tasks into one. And we sold that company to another business with the same exact vision, which is ClickUp, which is a San Diego-based company. And with the advent of ChatGPT and all of its variants since, there was an obvious gap in the market to come back and do another feedback company. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing now.
Pretty interesting. So basically, you can think of user testing as sort of the 10 years ago, if you're building a user testing platform, how you would build it. What's different about what you're running now, and how did you get to kind of founding this company?
Well, okay, so two parts to that. What's different about what we're doing now? The process of doing research is painful and it sucks. And the reality is nobody wants to do research. In fact, even user researchers don't want to do research because the process is pretty painful. So it starts with you have to come up with a series of questions or a test plan for your survey or for your user test or your interview. And that's a very time-consuming process to get that right. And then you have to go and recruit people to do your research project with. And then you have to either do the interviews yourself or do the user test yourself, or you hire a company like UserTesting and do it. And then afterwards, you have to watch the interview or you have to watch the user tests. And then you have to do the summary and the analysis. And then you have to produce the reports for your executive team or for your peers in order to summarize what you learned. So this whole process, even if you're using a company like UserTest, still takes weeks, sometimes months to accomplish. And
I think we used user testing back then. And so you get the panel and you kind of walk them through UX experiences. And that whole process end to end did take about a month. And we had a full-time team, like a scrum team, like 4 or 5 people working on it.
Yeah.
And we'd have a hypothesis like, we want to test this. Here's this clickable Figma prototype, or here's how we kind of want to design this thing. And it just took a long time. There's a lot of manpower to kind of get through this process.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're a ginormous team, who has 4 to 8 weeks to spend doing research? especially nowadays with the way that people are building products today. I mean, there's absolutely no time to do
There'll be a
that.
new version of Claude or ChatGPT out that designs a whole new interface in
Right.
8 weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So what we're doing now is it's all AI powered based research. So AI is doing everything from writing your test plan to moderating your user testing sessions to analyzing the results to publishing, reports that are ready to share with your executive team or with your peers. And the goal is to get all that time, that 4 to 6 weeks, down to like 1 or 2 hours, where you ask a question, like push a button, get insights. That's what we're building with this company.
So in true like AI singularity exponential times, you're compressing this timeline of getting the testing from weeks to like practically a day.
Hours, yeah, really hours is what we're shooting for. I mean, and
Are
I think there's
agents actually
opportunity.
kind of going through the experience and kind of testing it, or is it humans or some combination? Or
It's a combination right now. So the platform that we've rolled out right now is available to test with humans primarily. However, we're also developing AI. We're calling them synthetic testers, but these are, AI personalities that we can deploy to do user tests for you. And each one actually has a very different personality and it interacts with your test differently. And, I've simplified the process, but getting AI to do this is actually a real pain in the ass. It does not do this well out of the box. And so we've had to do a ton of development to make it work the way that a researcher or a product designer would want this to work to get feedback while they're building stuff.
this is one of the really cool things about AI is that you can prompt it in such a way to get it to assume a persona. I'm a 55-year-old female that still uses Hotmail, and I'm not very familiar with the UI. I prefer not to use it. And go, right? Is that a little bit how it works?
Yeah, I mean that's like a very basic version of it,
Right.
but there's so much more that you
Right.
can build into the persona, like their roles and responsibilities, how big of a company they work for, what the pace of their development, how they develop, how they do their job, what stage they're at in terms of in terms of their research of buying a product, for example. So there's 100 different factors that you can use to give the AI a persona. And different models perform differently. So if
Right.
you put Claude up against ChatGPT against Gemini, they're all going to have different responses,
Different
and even
insights and
within
responses and feedback
exactly, yeah,
So you
you
kind of
got it
do this like almost like this collection of models. You can put like Kimmy in there, you can put Manus in there,
Yep,
Llama in there, and
exactly,
so you're
yeah,
orchestrating all these agents to sort of go test the UI.
right. So each think about all these different factors. So you can for each model you can have thousands of personas with an avatar and a voice, and you can. And then each model, so ChatGPT 5.2 would get a model, and ChatGPT 5.1 would get a model, and 4.0 Mini would get a model, or would get different personalities. So you actually can build this humongous panel of synthetic testers to do your tests.
That's incredible. What do you think it is about customer feedback that keeps drawing you back to that problem? You've been working on this now for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, well, you know how George Bush kind of after the Iraq operations, he was sitting on that aircraft carrier and
It kind
he
of
has
lands in the jet. Yeah.
he kind of lands the jet. He comes out. And he says, "Mission accomplished." And after user testing, I definitely did not feel like it was mission accomplished. There was a lot that we wanted to do that we never were able to develop. And now with the advent of AI and our ability to build so quickly, we can roll out. I can finally build the product that I wish we could have brought to market 10 years ago. So that's what really brings me back, because I want to finish what I started at user testing.
Don't you always think though that it's going to be this like treadmill of it's never done, right? Because every 10 years we're going to have a platform shift. 10 years ago it was mobile and cloud. 10 years from now it'll probably be something like quantum. It'll be like, oh, now that quantum's out, we can go simulate like user testing across billions of realities.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm generally okay with that. Every 10 years I'll disrupt what I did before and keep making it better. That's okay.
That's a good founder. So you've talked about the 5-person user test being dead. What does that mean, and what's changed?
Right. First, some context for people who are listening in. There's a guy named Steve Krug who wrote a book, Don't Make Me Think.
Love that book.
Essentially, everybody
who works in software should read that book, like before they do anything with software.
It's such a good book, and Steve Krug's a really smart guy. Essentially, when he's talking about user testing, he says if user test, he admits user testing takes a lot of time, and each test can be half an hour to an hour, so it's a huge investment of time. But if you're being thoughtful and asking probing questions, you can uncover 80% of the usability issues across 5 user tests. So that kind of it gives people like a small, even though it would be much better if you could do 20 or 30 or 40 of these, if you only have time to do a couple, just do 5 and you'll get 80% of the insights.
So it kind
of
of
the problem.
asymptotes after 5, and you've got an 80, and maybe it's 90 at 10, and it's like 95 to 100 at 20, something like that.
Right. And exactly. And basically what he says is at that point, you at least know what 80% of the issues are, but you don't have enough data to know whether or not those are severe issues or not. So now you have to use, a bit of your own context and understanding of the business to prioritize which things actually matter. The reason why I think that is dead now is with AI, you can actually do 100 user tests in a couple of hours, and you don't have to sit down and watch 100 videos because AI is watching the videos for you. AI is summarizing what it's learned so far, and AI is making recommendations of what to do to fix the problems that come up. So you can say, of 100 out of these 100 user tests, 95 of them had the same problem, but it wasn't very severe. But these 7 people had it, and it completely stopped their ability to move forward. So now you've got, in a lot of ways, you're marrying what people do a survey because they want statistical significance. They want enough data to be able to make decisions. So you get to marry the quant, which is the decision-making power of a large sample size, with the qualitative, which is the understanding of why people are doing what they're doing. So that's you can marry the two with AI-powered user testing or AI-powered surveys or AI-powered interviews.
Yeah, maybe rename the company the AI said or something like that. But
Actually, that would be a good name in a couple of years.
the AI said.
Yeah, AI said.
Love that. So back at user testing, I mean, you were COO during a period of rapid scale. What's something that you're doing differently as a CEO now from what you learned there?
Well, besides AI, I mean, AI is the big thing. But I'd say, outside of AI, one of the big things at user testing that we did was we were always nervous to implement professional services. We were nervous that if we introduced professional services at the company, we would be seen as a services company and our revenue would be treated as services revenue, would be valued as services revenue rather than as software revenue.
So for the audience, explain what that is. What is professional services in that context, and why do people discount it?
Yeah, that's okay. So that's a good clarification. So every business, most businesses have revenue that comes from the software that they sell. That's
this
like things
SaaS,
like seat licenses.
The annual,
Seat
I'm paying
licenses.
10 grand a year to use your platform kind of thing.
Exactly. A seat license, or actually most SaaS is you're going to buy a seat license, and that's the software. That's the thing that you log into, the web application, the software. Also, you're oftentimes buying professional services. This could be things like helping a team will help you onboard. A team will help you get started. You can get access to a customer success person who you can call anytime. You can pay for, an advanced customer support plan where you get 24/7, customer support, and people will always be on call to answer your team's questions. So so all of that is considered services revenue. Now, investors generally they will reward software revenue at a much higher multiple because software revenue has a much higher gross profit margin. So software revenue typically has 80 to 90% gross profit margins, where oftentimes services revenue might only have a 20 to 40%.
Like the inverse. Yeah, it's like 20%
exactly
gross margin.
Right. So as a result, most companies try to optimize their revenue to be as much as they can services. Now, Salesforce kind of changed the world of the mix between software and services because Salesforce, I mean, a huge chunk of their revenue is services. It's it's climbed upwards of 20% in some years. And basically, what Wall Street said is like, look, as long as you keep what we've learned is that public markets, as long as you keep your services revenue in the 15% or less range, it will reward all of the revenue as software revenue. So you can actually have 85% software, 15% services, but that whole 100% will be valued as software.
Some equity analyst on Wall Street just decided that, and that's what everybody does.
Honestly, it was probably more companies like Salesforce who were early adopters
of this is the mix and this is how you should treat it.
Yeah. And it's like, and they prove that you can add services to your business without hurting gross profit margins, and it actually can be an accelerant of growth if you
renewals,
do it well.
Upsells, cross sells, all that
exactly.
stuff. Net revenue retention. They could probably study that. Where we implemented service revenue or professional pro serve, we got better retention and better net revenue, net dollar retention, net logo retention, stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that but when we were building user testing, those guardrails weren't as well established. So we were really nervous about adding services to the company, even though looking back, that would have been an incredible accelerator for the business. So this time around, one of the things that I'm doing differently is I'm not scared at all about adding professional services into the business. In fact, I think it can be one of our key unlocks to helping us get to this vision of push a button, get an insight.
Well, yeah, because like people are hiring you to do this job. It's like the jobs to be done framework, right? They're not hiring you to like give me a tool to use. I want the insight so I can build a better product.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
I don't want to do the research.
I don't care how you get it done. Research.
Just tell me what to fix.
Yeah, I can hire some agency for, whatever 5-figure cost to go do the study for me, or I can use Theysaid and just like the AI does it, and it's as good or nearly as good for a fraction of the cost. Is that kind of the value prop here?
Exactly, and it may be even more likely at a big company. It's like, I've got this really good research team, but they're backlogged for months.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get to that in Q3. And you're like, wait, it's Q1.
Right. And it's like professional photographers still use a digital SLR because it takes the best pictures. But most pictures taken today, the vast majority of pictures taken today are from a smartphone, which are still really good. Not as good as an SLR, but convenient. It's with you all the time. And so
sometimes you don't have to fly a 747 if you can take a Gulfstream, right? Like
Right. So but what I'm thinking about in terms, I'm using this analogy to talk about ubiquity. User testing has traditionally been something that's done by professionals. These are the SLR people. They really know what they're doing. Super high quality output.
Yeah. They even have a dark room at their house and the whole
right. But the future is the smartphone future, where now anyone can push a button and get an insight. And now there will always be a place for the professional SLR person, always. But a lot of people just need feedback quick, and you can use a smartphone.
Especially the kind of the long tail of non-Fortune 1000 companies, let's call it.
Exactly. That's exactly it, which is most businesses, right? So I think if we deliver on our vision, we will many more research tests, many more insights will be generated for companies in the next 15 years than in the previous 15 years.
Yeah. How does this dovetail with kind of the movement for forward deployed engineers? Because that seems to be a movement right now in software as well.
What do you mean by forward deployed engineers?
Yeah, so this is more like they're basically professional services engineers that go on site and help you implement the product and things like that. Seems to be like something that a lot of software companies are doing now.
Interesting. Well, I don't think that will be a trend for long, and let me explain why. AI workflows, they really are remarkable. When you really get them implemented in your system, you can do unbelievable software development. Everything from having your designer, assuming that they've built their design system, crank out polished, beautiful designs in hours using Figma Make.
It's kind of like vibe coding everything. We're vibing every process in business.
It's so true.
We're just basically telling the AI like, hey man, I need a user study done. Cool. Like and it just built this whole platform.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you go from the design in Figma to now you're using Figma MCP, where Cursor can grab all of that and convert it into front end code. Basically, we've been able to make relatively junior, and I say relatively junior, I mean, these are engineers with less than 3 years of coding experience. Some of them are straight out of college or in college, and they're producing more throughput than previous engineers that I worked with that didn't have the benefit of AI by a factor of 3 or 4. Like they are incredible engineers.
This must be really hard for product managers, because I came from product for years and years, was never an engineer. And so I'd write a PRD and then I'd just go meet people for the next, 2 weeks while they kind of built it. And like this must be really hard, because now it's almost like this, like almost a daily process. Like, are you guys experiencing it where like you almost have to review the output every single day and user test it every single day?
The job is actually easier. And the reason why is you can give more ownership. Like before, the product manager really had to think everything through, because it was so expensive to use engineering time that you just couldn't afford.
You don't want to waste their time. Like, make sure I'm building the right thing in the right way with all the right functionality. And you better be sure, because it's very costly.
Do not waste. And do not roll out something that doesn't get used. Otherwise, shame on you. Now, the engineer is building so quickly that you can actually say like, look, this is like the general direction I want to head with this, but I want it to work within your system. So however you can build this fastest, go do that. Show me what you came up with, and then let's iterate. So it's like way more rapid iteration with the product manager and the engineer, way less time on the original PRD, easy fixes when engineering has to make changes. So,
And engineers
I
are
think,
less upset when you get feedback, because I remember like just grinding. At one point, I had 5 scrum teams under me, and it was like, just pulling teeth sometimes to get them to iterate on things. And
yeah.
you had
Well,
this backlog of like 500 tickets that you're prioritizing, and now they're just cranking through those.
yeah, I agree with all that. And the engineers feel more ownership for what they're building because they're part of the process. Like they get to see how the product is made, the product decisions. They were part of the product decisions. They get to weigh in on the experience. We have QA involved really early in the process. So QA gets to also watch it get built so that they can test the right things. So it's just a much more collaborative, team-based approach to building stuff, which is rapid, iterative, more ownership across the board. And I think it's more fun.
That's amazing. And that was kind of like the next question I wanted to ask is, how are product teams changing? And I think we kind of nailed it, but anything else you want to add there?
Well, yeah, let me just think of like there's any other details that'd be worth sharing about how the product teams work. Well, I would say there have been tools. I'm going to talk about ClickUp. I sold my company to ClickUp, but it's really because I'm a believer in the vision of Nuffsaid, which I sold to ClickUp, which is get all of your work in one place. It makes a huge difference for product teams when they can have their ticketing, their Slack communication, their tasks, their Figma designs, their customer research. It's all in one place. So it's not like you're not going to 5 different places. You don't have data silos, just like all the context that you need to get work done is all happening in one place. So that ticket is the single source of truth for everything that you need to know about the project. All the Slack communication. I mean, ClickUp has its own internal chat. It has its own commenting system. It has its own direct messaging. It has its own file system. So all that comes in one place. So I think really effective product teams are doing a good job of bringing all their workflow into a single workspace, which makes life so much easier for keeping everybody on the same page and working quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'd love to talk on that thread a little bit too, because you went through this huge scale up, huge IPO, C level exec from, 0 to 100 million revenue. That's pretty amazing. And then you did another company and sold it. And now you're kind of really on your third, startup in a way, and twice as a founder, once as an exec. What are you taking in this like third iteration? Kind of, I think there's a magical quality to three, to the third time. Like, what are you kind of getting right now that you've kind of taken away? I asked that question about user testing, but I'd love to kind of know, like, as a, kind of this third rodeo, like, what are you doing now that's different?
From an execution standpoint, I'm not sure that there's that much difference. And what I mean by that is, early stage company building is about just rapid, nonstop testing of everything because you have a hypothesis and your first hypothesis is going to be wrong. You already know it's going to be wrong. So just get something out to market, test it, iterate on it, move quickly, kill the stuff that's not working. Try to sell it. Yeah, sell it before it exists, right? That's all part of the startup process. So I think a lot of that is the same. I think probably the thing that's different is I have more patience to know that like it's okay that stuff isn't going to work initially. Like in the like the first couple of times at it, if something doesn't work, it's like, have I failed? Am I not as good as I think I am? Did I make the wrong choice?
A little bit more existential.
Right. Did I make the wrong choice with this business?
Piece of shit. Maybe I should shut this down. And
why did I give up this high paying job to go do this startup where I'm not making any money?
About Team Ignite every day. Like I could just be at Microsoft, just collecting the equity, man. And just like grinding.
Right. So I think now it's like, I know that's, when I'm signing up for this journey, I know that's what I'm signing up for.
Yeah.
And there's something like, people ask Elon Musk, like, why do you keep doing startups? Like you've made a ton of money. You don't need to do this anymore. Like why keep
150, $200 billion, 300 billion, whatever it is now.
Yeah. He's like, it's like 600 or 700 billion now. And so, but I think it's the same thing, which is like constantly on the edge of failure keeps you really sharp. It keeps you thinking. It keeps the pressure on. It keeps you moving at your fastest pace. It keeps you learning. It keeps you experimenting. And I'm just really good in that. Like I'm really good in that kind of environment. So
love it.
That's where I thrive.
And that's why we invested. Fair disclosure, but we're friends. But I also invested in
yes.
Chris,
Yeah. Thank you. Of course.
Yeah. Of course. So you just launched 3.0. Tell us about that. What's exciting about this new launch?
3.0 is us delivering a lot of features that the market was asking for. So in 2.0, we made this big push to get a bunch of stuff out there. We got a ton of feedback about what people liked and what they didn't like. One of the things that people really wanted was really good user testing capabilities. So 3.0 included, we had AI user testing, we had AI surveys, AI forms, which is like a type form, but it's AI assisted, super cool tech.
Nice.
We added the ability to add voice anywhere in the platform. So you can have users, testers or survey takers can speak their responses rather than typing. AI can talk back to them. We added things like conditional logic, which, gives the survey creator the ability to branch the questions depending on how people answer. We added the ability to recruit out of your own panel or recruit out of our panel. We made it we made it an international product where you can launch your test to 70 different languages. So anyway, and remember, we're an AI native company, so this is like 3 or 4 months worth of work. So we're delivering like these massive features.
I mean, you just described like probably almost 2 or 3 years back in my software brain from 10 years ago of work.
Yeah, and this is now months of work. So we're already working on, like, we're pretty far into 4.0. Which is the next the next round of features. So yeah, it's being AI native is fun, man. It's a different world.
Yeah.
It's a different world than we grew up in.
How do you that was going to be my next question too. Like, how do you think this whole industry changes? We've been kind of working in SaaS. I've been investing in SaaS now and working in it for 15 years plus. And, a lot of, you saw the SaaS apocalypse recently where, there's, I don't know how many tens or hundreds of billions of the stock market value was crushed. I'm sure user testing got crushed in that too. What's your crystal ball over the next 5 or 10 years with SaaS and software and AI everything? Yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I have some too that I'll share. But
sure, yeah, actually, I would love to hear your thoughts. I don't think anyone can predict. I don't know if you watched the All In podcast. I watched to see what those guys are kind of predicting too, and even they're
the one I've liked recently is Moonshots. I've been listening to Moonshots a lot.
Yes, yeah, really good.
Yeah. Those guys are living in the future and talking about it in the present day. Whereas All In's become a very political, and every once in a while you'll get some tech stuff. But
yeah, I mean they've tried to bring in more kind of AI discussion recently. Especially the beginning of the year episodes, they try to make predictions for for what's going to happen in the year. So there are some interesting.
And Sachs just want to talk about politics.
Yeah,
it's actually Freeberg and Jason are like, no, let's talk about startups and tech.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the schism there.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously Sachs has to talk politics now, right?
Right, it's like his whole book now. Yeah,
right. He's part of the administration, but yeah, so impossible to see how it's going. And like every week, you get like these new huge things. I mean, you had OpenClaw and Maltbook come out last week or 2 weeks ago, and already the OpenClaw
got acquired by OpenAI as we're recording this.
Yeah. I don't know if he acquired OpenClaw, but they certainly hired the guy who made it.
Well, I hear and I've just glanced at the news. I have to do your own research, but I heard that Meta offered $2 billion to bring him in.
Oh my God.
And so OpenAI had to have at least matched that.
Wow.
So
okay.
I think what we're witnessing is probably the first unicorn exit in history. A solo founded AI unicorn exit.
Yeah, in like 7 days, in 7 business days. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he launched it a month ago.
Yeah, less than a month ago. I mean, that's like literally weeks ago.
He started working on it back in. He said he vibe coded it over a weekend in November of 2025.
Yeah,
we're talking about from like zero to $1 billion exit, and this is the acceleration. This is where that question's coming from. Is we're just seeing an acceleration across our economy, across startup creation, value creation, everything. I mean, for an investor like me, looking at him, he didn't raise any money. He just vibe coded something and exited for $1 billion.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So what even happens to me?
Okay, so here's my take.
What about me?
Yeah.
Who moved my cheese?
Yeah, right. So it's really hard. It's really easy. There's a lot of noise. I think you even said this before. There's a lot of noise in the AI market. Yeah. And for me, the noise is like the one guy who sold his company for $1 billion, or the cursor who went from 0 to
100 million in 6 months or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Or the, that one AI company that hit product market fit. And, for me, that's noise, because that's not most of us. Of course, there's going to be the outliers. Let them do their thing.
The 0.001% of companies that are just
And
headline news. Yeah.
and there's not much we can learn from them. I mean, what do you learn from a guy who vibe coded? I mean, it's like everybody's vibe coding right now, so it's not like it was, maybe maybe the takeaway from that story is there's a huge appetite in the market for AI that can deeply integrate into your workflows and just do stuff for you. I don't know. Was that big of an insight? I think he was just the first person to actually do it. So
yeah, he kind of just took all these things that were sitting around and said, hey, I could wire this up to like do stuff.
Right. And I could do useful things. And actually, if you look at the things that the AI could do, they're actually not that useful, actually, in the grand scheme of things in terms of saving you time. But it was the realization that like, oh, AI can do a lot of my rote, administrative tasks that I don't want to do. So it's kind of like the promise of where this technology could go that I think everyone got really excited about. Because if you look at the actual tasks that OpenBook performs for you, they're actually not that. I mean, yes, of course they're helpful. I mean, you take some stuff off your plate, but it's not like it's not going to go.
I spent 5 or 6 hours setting it up, got it to work, went in a hostinger, got my VPS set up, doing a lot of bash commands on the terminal. And I'm pretty technical, and I spent 5 or 6 hours trying to get it to work, and I was like, this isn't that special.
It's not that helpful. It's not that helpful. Right.
But
not that helpful.
It's almost like the promise of it, because you can see if this becomes very useful in the next year or two, all knowledge work just completely shifts, right? And one thing I hear Jason talk about a lot is this is changing all, the entire equation on scaling startups. I mean, are you feeling that a little bit as a founder who's done it before? Are you? I mean, I see it as an investor. People are more capital efficient. They could ship more code. I still think there's like a Jevons paradox or Jevons. I hear people say it both ways, but that will happen with software, which is when the cost of producing software asymptotes to zero, there's more software than ever created and more demand for it than ever.
Yes, that's generally hit. Yeah. So the way that I'm feeling about this is the outliers are noise. I mean, there's nothing we can learn from them. There's a lot of speculation in the market still. A lot of FOMO, and that drives crazy valuations. And so of course, as an investor, you feel frothy, like, oh my gosh, how do I how do I be a part of this? Right.
Yeah. Now I got to go to everybody with a GitHub project and start throwing money at them.
Yeah. But for the other 999,999 companies that are building right now, they're not experiencing that wave right now. And so I think the fundamentals of building a business still exist, which is, you got to go find people with a problem. You got to find people with a severe problem where they're willing to spend money to solve that problem. And AI needs to be a tool to help you solve that problem more efficiently or quickly or at a lower cost than you could before.
Right. You just described startups perfectly. It's like you're paying time or money to solve a problem in a very painful way, and we could do it better with this new product.
That's it. That's
basically it.
That's basically it. And Cursor, is it worth billions of dollars because it helps engineers code, 50% faster than they could have before, or maybe even 100% faster than they could have before? Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a valuable product. There's going to be a million copycats of that product.
Well, there already is. You got Cloud Code, you got Code.
Right, exactly. Right. And then you got
for them, actually, I think.
Yeah, you got this other argument that's being made now that, maybe all software will be self-prompted. I want my own CRM, and so I'm not going to buy Salesforce. My agent is going to build.
That's what Schwartz keeps saying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm probably more in the camp of David Sachs, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, which is software. I'm in it, so I'm in it with AI. And yes, the initial product building can happen very, very quickly with AI. AI is really bad at debugging. AI is really bad at managing existing code. And as your application grows, I mean, you know this, Brian, as your application grows, you go from 75 or 80% innovation time to 5% innovation time. And the other 90% goes to keeping the product on the cutting edge, fixing bugs, making the product more performant, adding.
Or the death knell of every SaaS company ever. Well, we're going to spend 6 months refactoring it.
Right. But the refactoring. You need to shard your database. Okay, so now you need to shard your database. You need to do international hosting. All those things are AI is not. At some point, AI will be good at these things.
It's almost like a bias where everybody's like, "Oh, AI is going to come in and just destroy everything." It's the internet didn't do that. It took 25 years for that, and we're still kind of living through that. And same with mobile and cloud and everything else. And so, I think to your point, it's going to take 10 to 20 years for this all to play out. But I think we're going to see a massive acceleration of 1,000 flowers blooming of software everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see a massive number of new companies developing a large amount of software. For sure, we're going to see that. But at the end of the day, the winner is still going to be the company that solves the problem, does the best job of solving the
They just
problem.
execute better. It still just comes down to executing.
Yeah, faster, cheaper, better. I mean, that's right.
Yeah,
That's going to be the winner ultimately.
right.
And so, yeah, the last point that I was going to make is that even okay, so we're building an AI that can have conversations with customers, and from the time that the company started until now, I have to say there's been a tiny improvement in AI's ability off the shelf to have conversations the way that a human would want to interact. Like people are protective of having conversations with customers. So they want a really high quality conversation with good follow-up questions. I've been very disappointed with the quality of AI out of the box. We've had to do an enormous amount of agentic agents working together to try to figure out the best way to have a conversation with a human and make it feel more human-like. And even now, even though the product is good now, I still think there's a lot of things that we can and should do to make it feel even more human-like. So even though we keep saying like acceleration, 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 there are lots of things where like AI has just not made big improvements at all. And this is one use case.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So, I mean, speaking of big companies, UserTesting is a very big company. How are you finding it selling against your old company? That must be a really interesting experience.
UserTesting, we talked about this at the beginning, because UserTesting is slow and because UserTesting was acquired by private equity, and actually it wasn't UserTesting, it was UserTesting and 3 of its biggest competitors.
Say no
So
more.
now, yeah.
Yeah, they stopped
So now,
innovating, basically. Yeah.
right. So now it's a, $350-400 million, a year
Cash cow.
business, cash cow for private equity. And, but as a result of that, it's very expensive. So now you got this slow, expensive product. So very few companies can afford it. And very few companies are moving slowly enough to have enough time to do user testing the old way.
Right.
So yeah, so if you ask like how I'm feeling selling into the market, it feels great.
And
I've
you know
never
where all
been
the
able to,
skeletons are. Because you're
yeah,
like, hey, I was the COO of that company. Let me tell you about them.
I know. I literally know where all of the weaknesses of the company
Yeah.
are. So yeah.
Ask them these 3 questions next time you
Yeah,
talk to them. Yeah.
yeah. There's literally no one who can sell against me in a
Yeah.
user testing process because I just know
That's
I
a
know the
competitive
business
advantage.
so well. Yeah.
Do you feel like, putting your VC hat on for a sec, do you feel like the best founders are like you that have the domain expertise, or they're kind of like from outside the domain and so they're ignorant enough to kind of go reinvent everything? Or could you be successful with both kind of personas?
I'm thinking back on the companies where I've made the most money investing as an investor.
Yeah. Right, because you've been an angel and invested in lots of companies, and
Yeah, we've had some fantastic wins too. I don't think I've ever invested in a founder with domain expertise that had a big win. I think all of my like even in my career, like this is the first company I've started where I have domain expertise. Even in my own career and founders that I've invested in, none of them had a domain, or like they hadn't worked at a company in the same category before. So I think it's actually a good founder can identify a painful problem to start with.
yeah,
Because that really, it's like an obsession with a customer problem. That's really what matters at the end of the day. It's the wrong founder is product obsessed, and a great founder is problem obsessed. And so the great founders just have this knack for seeing a problem and then just ravaging it from all angles to figure out how to solve it.
yeah, I love that. And I've invested in over 300 companies now. I've definitely seen founders be successful on both sides, and that kind of is the art and science of, I think, being an investor, is figuring that out, right? Kind of assessing the team and trying to figure out like what type of team it is. I think you can come from the domain and reinvent it, and vice versa. You can Jeff Bezos it and just be like, I'm going to start a bookstore. Came from hedge
Or
funds, right?
yeah, or Bill Gates starting an operating system company. I mean, probably what you're saying is domain expertise is not the winning fact, the predictor of whether or not someone's going to be successful.
Right. So speaking of AI, LLMs generally that are prone to making shit up and hallucinating, how do you kind of maintain trust and signal in these insights?
Yeah. Well, we've actually done an extraordinary amount of development behind the scenes to make AI not hallucinate so that you can actually trust the results. So, but without spilling all the beans, what I can say is cannot use AI out of the box to look at a survey or user test and get reliable results. Even though, models like, Gemini would have, you can put 1 million tokens into the context window. The LLM's ability to find the needle in the haystack is very, very small. I mean, I think the hit rate is like, I don't know, 25 or 30%. So
Something
you're going
like
to
that.
get,
It's getting better every generation, but yeah.
yeah. I think the new Claude Opus is up to like 60%. But still,
Right.
you're talking about like in enterprise software, you can't get it wrong 30% of the time. So you have to use a combination of traditional technology plus LLMs to keep AI honest on what you're actually learning from the insights. For us, in terms of how do we create conversations that are more human-like in terms of quality, we've got this massive agentic AI framework where we've got agents that work together to build a great conversation with the customer. And we use different LLMs in that agentic flow, right? Each agent is powered by a single LLM model. It has instructions. Oftentimes, 2 or 3 agents are working together. And then oftentimes we have a QA agent that inspects the work that was done and sends it back to the group if it doesn't like the output. So that's how we're able to maintain, and it's not like sometimes you still get a hallucination through sometimes, but we've reduced it to a really, really small percentage of the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, what I find, because I use AI in all my processes at Team Ignite, it's basically me with a bunch of AI underneath me.
Yeah.
That's Team Ignite, plus all
Yeah.
the LPs and operators that help us. But in the day-to-day running of AI, like Team Ignite, it's basically AI. And what I find is you have to basically prompt the AI multiple times in multiple ways
Yes.
to get a good output. You just can't rely on a single shot answer.
So there are tools like LangChain, Flowwise, N8N, where you can build like hardened agentic AI flows where it's like a flow chart where you have
we use
agents, right? And it takes an extraordinary amount of, like you've experienced this, so many revisions to get AI to reliably produce the output that you want.
Now go think about that again. Now go think about that again. Now go think about that again. Like literally. Yeah.
Like our like the agentic flow that produces our conversations. I think we have gone through 1,370 iterations on it. And there's probably another 1,300 that need to be done before we feel like it's perfect.
Yeah, my AI for analyzing startups is now like on version 200 something.
Yeah.
I basically almost iterate every day on it. There's almost like a new iteration every single day on the process or the prompt or the model or some combination of the 3.
Yeah.
And
we're the same way. And then we're, oftentimes we're doing multiple per day. So and that's just what's required because AI is not good enough out of the box. I mean, I think this part of like people like us that are in it, like there's people who see AI from the outside, they maybe use Chat GPT, but if you're trying to build software for the enterprise, there's no tolerance for a crappy output. Like it needs to be
at
right.
least 3 nines basically,
Yeah, it's got to be right every time.
Yeah.
And so the amount of work that it takes to go from the Chat GPT level of quality to autonomous, run on your own, be right all the time, it's an enormous amount of work.
Yeah, I love that. So what are some leadership lessons that you're applying today that you picked up over your last 2 stints?
Well, I'm going to go back to something I said earlier because it's been such a valuable part of me building companies. At UserTesting, this started at UserTesting. There were some people at the company who were incredibly productive. There were other people who were so smart. Like I knew them, and we gave everybody Wonderlic tests when they joined the company. So,
what's the test?
Generally, okay, so Wonderlic is like a general aptitude test. They use it for the NFL and a couple other places. It's kind of like, it's not so much IQ, but what it does is it reveals someone's aptitude to learn new things. So, and over time, I've kind of learned what each score range means for someone's ability to learn new things. And so there are people
like a bar that you won't hire somebody if they take this test. If you got to get a certain score, like a certain.
It depends. It's like some jobs it actually doesn't matter as much, right? Because but some jobs it really matter. So, but yes, for each job there's a threshold below which, like, if you hire this person, it's not like they couldn't do the job. It's just it's going to take them a long time to learn what needs to be learned. So, like, if you love them, they've got a great personality, great attitude. Maybe they have industry and expertise. Maybe you still make the hire anyway. But generally,
it's another factor you consider.
Yeah, it's another factor. But so there are some people at UserTesting who were so smart, and holy crap, they couldn't get anything done. they were so ineffective. And oftentimes what I learned was, smart people always, they kind of grew up and they were always able to handle everything in their head because, they've got great memory. They can always remember. But, when you start working at a high paced startup, you've got like 30 things you need to
The
be paying
context
attention.
switching, you got 30 different things going on. And
Yeah. So the thing that was different between the high productivity and the low productivity people, regardless of their Wonderlic score, was ability to organize all of their work into a single list. So they weren't looking at email like some people, like on their Gmail, they would leave the messages unread that they had to get back to, or they put a star next to it. No, the high productivity people took any tasks that they needed, put it into a task list, archived their inbox so they never have to look at it. Their tasks were cleaned and organized. They didn't leave like to-dos on their calendar. They didn't have, they didn't leave to-dos in Slack with reminders and all that. They just had one place where they could say, okay, this is the universe of everything I need to do.
So for me, that is an email. Like I put my entire
Sure, okay,
universe
yeah.
into email. Yeah.
Right. So actually some people do use email as their primary,
Like my
their
task
single
is
source
how I
of truth.
prioritize, is how I folder everything into like do now, do later, review now. Like everything's like in my email.
Yes. People like you end up being the most productive because they have intentionally said, I'm going to make one place my single source of truth. And I'm going to get all of my shit into that one place. And that will let me see every day when I come into the office, I can see the universe of everything I need to pay attention to. That makes it way easier to spot the stuff that's urgent, way easier to set aside the stuff that doesn't need attention right now. And it lets you kind of focus and prioritize and work quickly on those high impact activities.
Plus I like, for me personally, I have to get to inbox 0 because I'm a VC. So there's I'm waiting on this doc for the Series A, and like, hey man, I need this doc signed.
Right. Exactly.
I have to get the inbox there. I have to get through everything. And I only do it once a week now. I used to do it every day, but like every week I get to inbox 0. I used to be able to do it every day. I can't anymore. But
yeah, in a lot of ways, this, what I found is consistently the very smartest people never had to put in place an organization system because it never mattered for them because they were smart enough to keep it all in their brain. Once they got into a high paced environment, everything that they had learned
how do you
didn't
filter
work.
for that? Like, how do you filter? What kind of interview questions? Is there a test? Like, how do you filter for people like that?
Well, I don't. I still want to hire the smartest people. I just teach them how to manage their work better. So one of the things that, at Theysaid, one of the things we do is, as a forcing function, is we just get all the work in one place. So you don't even have a choice to be going off into these other places, because if you want to work at the company, you have to be in ClickUp where all the work and all the context is one place. So it's
what's your system for that now? Like, is there a software package you use? Or
it's just ClickUp. So ClickUp comes bundled with tasks, project management, calendar, chat, like Slack based chat. You can do emails. You can do many emails from your ClickUp. Loom videos are all built into ClickUp. Reporting and dashboards. You can run AI agents within it. You can have automations. So we do all of our product and engineering ticketing. We do all of our CRM in ClickUp. We do all of our HR. So all those systems, rather than having like separate systems for all that stuff. Nope.
So it's a bundled piece of like business operations software. Basically, it does everything that everything in one place. As a knowledge worker you could possibly need to do is ClickUp.
Yeah. So it's as a forcing function, it gets everyone working together in the same place, context in one place. It's almost like it's hard to work out of another system because all the work is there. So if you want access to the context, you go to where the work is.
That's I got to check out ClickUp, I guess. Because right now we're like,
you definitely got to check out ClickUp.
Yeah, I got to check it out. Because right now I'm in so many different systems, like Airtable for one thing, Google Docs for another thing, email for everything else, and obviously got calendar and got a CRM. And
it just makes you less efficient because now you have to scan every day when you come in, and during the course of the day you have to be scanning 5 different systems to figure out what you should be working on.
Right. Yeah. So how do you coach your team to kind of stay focused in a noisy, fast moving AI startup and market?
Yeah, well, I think this goes back to like, how do you filter the noise from the signal? And what I'm often telling the team is that, there's a lot of debates online, optimist versus pessimist debate of where AI is going. Don't even engage with that. It's all noise. No one can predict what's happening. It's just for clicks. The 1% of 1% companies that have breakout success, don't pay attention because there's nothing we can learn from that story. But what I do is I actively encourage everyone to be experimenting with new technologies as they come out. So as a company, when something new comes out, and if it looks really promising, we jump on it and try to see if it adds value. And I got to be honest, a lot of times, a lot of these AI tools add almost no value. So, but we're always experimenting. So what
Right.
I'd say is like, it's actually critical as a CEO that you encourage the team to spend some portion of every week experimenting with new tools, because 1 out of 10 is really good and it's worth adopting into the way that you build stuff. So yeah, so how do we keep the team up to date? Largely me and the CTO are focused. We're scanning the world for the stuff that's actually valuable. We filter it down to the team and we encourage regular testing of new technologies as they become available, but we kill stuff really quick that isn't working.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
First startup you ever worked on?
All right. The short version is I worked for a company called headsets.com. This was in the early 2000s, right? So there's no killer app yet for the internet, right? Amazon had some, I don't even think Google had gone public yet. Amazon had some good early success. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, like maybe internet retail is the killer app for the internet. So I joined headsets.com. We sold telephone headsets online and it grew from $1 million to 40 million in sales in like 4 years. For online retailer, that's like unbelievable growth.
That's a lot, yeah.
And then we got killed by Amazon. So that was that story. It was a really good business for 4 or 5 years, and then
Wow.
it became really hard to scale once Amazon realized that they could sell our products and go directly to our manufacturers and sell our products instead of us selling them. So
Why do you think you had that outcome of that company versus like a Zappos or diapers.com, or name your favorite category killer that Amazon had to acquire? Did Zappos just get so big that Amazon couldn't compete and it was just easier to buy?
Totally. Yeah, because if you think about it, Amazon did not acquire that many retailers. Zappos
Right.
was one of the few standouts. And Tony Hsieh, I knew Tony Hsieh, and one of the things that was really special about him was his like obsessive focus on creating a great customer experience. And that aligned really well with Jeff Bezos's model.
Right.
So like the fact that they had scaled so quickly, they were at 100 plus, maybe 150 million by the time they were acquired. And that aligns so well with Amazon's model for selling online I think that was a good.
What's your favorite metric that actually matters to a CEO?
I created a score called CPV, which is a product market fit score, and it has 4 components: problem, product, price, and people. And actually, if you look around, it actually aligns pretty well with some of the other kind of Sean Ellis and some of the other guys that have done a lot of thinking around product market fit. But essentially, it's the score that we, like every one of our sales deals is scored on this product market fit chart. And what that allows us to do is assess over time whether the business is getting closer to or farther from product market fit. And if we're moving farther, why? What part of our calculus is wrong? Are we solving the wrong problem for somebody? And if so, who was that person? So we know what was wrong about it. Product, does the product solve the problem that they wanted to solve? And if not, what was missing? Pricing, can they justify the price? Like, even if the product is good and the problem was there, maybe the price is too high to justify the solution. And then people, so are we speaking to the right people, and are we offering the right people to help them buy? So I call it the CPV score, and it's our number one tool that we use to iterate on product market fit.
Love that. Never heard that. So yeah, I mean, you made it up, and maybe write a blog on it, and I'll share it with some of my founders. That's really cool. What's harder to scale, product market fit or culture?
Both are really hard. I would say product market fit is harder. Most businesses fail. Something like, I don't remember the exact stats, but something like 80% of businesses fail by the time they get to year 5. And of the remaining ones, almost nobody makes it over $1 million in sales. And the reason is
we typically only invest in companies that are post-launch, post-revenue, right? I find that the mortality rate going from 0 to even $250,000 in revenue, like you drop the mortality rate by like 80%.
Totally. Because at least at that point, they've gotten some product market fit.
Yeah, you can kind of like, you almost have infinite runway, I think, at that point, because you can kind of just go back to the founders and maybe one employee and kind of grind it out at that point.
Keep grinding it. Yeah. So product market fit is just incredibly difficult to get right. And even once you get it right, how do you take it from 250 to $1 million? Or like for those companies that quickly get to 10 and then can't scale beyond 10, right? You hear a lot of those stories, a lot of these like hot startups that like never make it.
Well, they run it into a wall. They think like, oh, I can do no wrong. And I'm going to turn burn up to 300, 400, 500,000 a month because I just raised a 10 million A, right?
Right.
Or 10 million B, whatever it is. And then they just go.
Right. And the thing that they didn't have right yet is they didn't have product market fit in a big enough category yet. And that process, like you never actually have product market fit forever. You have product market fit for, it's like a slice in time.
Yeah, the initial subcategory, sub vertical, sub
Yes.
market, and then you have to keep expanding that pie, and you're always kind of on the edge of no product market fit.
That's exactly it. And it's so hard to get that right over time. Yes, by the way, I don't want to diminish the value of culture because that's also super, super critical and very hard to maintain over time. But the product market fit is like, it's existential. Like you have to figure out a path to continue to iterate on product market fit. And if you don't have a way, like a structured way in your mind to do that, you, as a CEO, you significantly increase the chance of the business failing or plateauing. And so I think for that reason, I'd have to say product market fit's harder.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this is I'm thinking about like kind of like restaurants that go from 1 to 2 or 3 locations and they end up failing.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with startups. Like you went from this like category, and you got some product market fit there. Now you're in the second category or the second
Right.
vertical, trying to grow revenue, and that's where a lot of people and founders and founding teams kind of trip up. How do you prevent that? Is it just putting the right structure in place where, okay, now you have a new team that has a product marketing manager and an account team and a sales team, and you literally have to set up like almost like a new sub business every time you're going into a new market? How do you tackle that?
I mean, that's probably a pretty healthy way to think about it. I think from a corporate governance and fiscal responsibility perspective, you don't pump money into the new market until you've proven product market fit. And that's where a lot of companies go wrong. It's like, well, it worked in this category, so it's going to work in this category. Let's
boom, run full speed
pump
ahead.
up. Yeah, let's pump tons of money into sales and marketing and go, conquer that category before the company has really understood what's the problem, how severe is the problem for this new buyer.
Score here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
In your framework. Yeah.
Exactly. How good is the product at solving their problem and what's missing? How do people feel about the price? Can they justify the price? Can they get access to the budget needed to pay for the solution? And then are the people that we hired before to sell before, are they the right people to sell to the new buyer? Because it could be that the people that you had before are actually not great people to market to and sell to and service the new buyer. So yeah, long story short, we we as investors, and I've done this too, we get excited that an early sign of fit, we believe that it can expand into other categories without actually testing it first, and we invest too early into it before proving that the product market fit is there.
Yeah, I love that. Really, really good insights. What's a founder you like to study or people should study?
I mean, just as a general rule, I don't study people who are successful because it's, I've even done this myself in some points. Like once you're successful, you kind of retell history to help make yourself sound really smart. I think we're all guilty of that. Like once you have some success, you can kind of look back and say like, wow, man, I made some great decisions. Let me walk you through those decisions I made. Even though at the time you were just like testing a lot of shit and hope something worked. So, and a lot of it was just like brute force effort rather than anything smart that you did. So I'm much more interested in talking to founders who experimented with a lot of different things and asking them what they, if they could go back in time, what they would have done differently, what they think they did wrong, and what they learned. I think that's a much more interesting, like from a founder perspective, it's much more interesting to learn from those folks. There's nothing I can learn from Jeff Bezos at this point, right? There's nothing I can learn from Bill Gates. They've rewritten their story 100 times, and who knows what made them successful in the early days. They don't even know what made them successful. So
yeah, and I think a lot of it's just luck and random, like right place, right time, right idea, and just everything kind of pinballs down into like the Monte Carlo simulation that is reality.
Yeah. I don't want to take anything away from a successful founder. I mean, people work really hard as founders. You know what it's like. It's brutal. I mean, it's just like nonstop work and you make all these sacrifices. So like, yeah, good for them for their success. Yeah. But in terms of learning, I'd rather learn from people who failed.
Love that. What's the worst advice you hear in SaaS today?
The worst advice, as a general, okay, so again, I'm speaking in generalities. Whatever the market or my investors are telling me to do is generally the opposite of what I want to do. It's like the same thing as Warren Buffett's, like investors tend to, they bunch, they all kind of swarm around an idea. And I always stop when it happens. I stop and think, okay, what's the opposite of that idea that I could do right now that would be give me an unnatural advantage compared to everyone else who's listening to their VCs right now. But the opposite is true too. Like when everyone's saying pour on the gasoline, I'm like, okay, what's the frothy thing that I want to avoid because it's going to be,
Totally. That's why I love
overcrowded.
working in pre-seed and being a generalist investor. Because I could have
Yeah,
done like an AI fund. I think we talked about
right.
this because I led
Yeah,
AI, built a bunch of AI, I led AI at Amazon, and I definitely have all the chops and pedigree to do that. But I also knew that if I did that, I would be pigeonholing myself into suboptimal returns because I'm not completely confident I can get into all the best and hottest AI companies. And being a generalist, I can find value. It's almost like being Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett is sitting right now, as we speak, like on $330 billion in cash because everything's just like in his mind at Berkshire, like everything's just too frothy. There's nothing valuable to buy.
I mean, I want to add something to this, which is that you are remarkable at getting in front of deals, though. Like I've never seen anybody get access to so many deals compared to you. I mean, you're like, I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how you do it. It's like one of your secret weapons. But you've gotten access to some amazing deals that I haven't been able to find anyone else. Like I've asked, like, how do I get into these early stage deals? Like how do you do this? And you've cracked the code. So
Well,
kudos
I,
to
I
you for
move
figuring that
fast
out.
and I add a lot of value, right? And
Yeah,
then, Team Ignite, I think, is a competitive advantage. People always say, oh, I have a great network and my network's my value. And like, it really is, though. Like, the way we build Team Ignite is with 300 plus portfolio companies doing the podcast, adding value, making intros. Like, if you have somebody that is raising, you'll introduce them to me. Because you're like, oh, Brian's great. He made a really quick
yeah,
decision. He has a lot of value, and that word kind of spreads. And then I just get into lots of deals because of it, and I just make very quick decisions.
yeah. Well, it's working. All I'm saying is it's working. I've raised money from some of the top VCs in the world, and I've never seen anyone like you. I mean,
Thanks, man.
the kind of network and access that you have at your disposal is like unbelievable, like
Team
truly
Ignite
remarkable.
commercial.
My wife Lee Hong, we work together here, and sometimes I'm like, how is Brian getting access to these deals? This is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So anyway,
It's
good for
it's
you, man.
it's all
Really
network,
good.
man. It's just all network, and then it's like everything's AI powered, right?
Yeah.
So I can move very
Right.
quickly. Like
Yeah.
I can process 10,000 pitch decks a year, meet
Right.
with 1,000 of them, and invest in 100 of them. That's kind of like the formula. And
Great.
then everything else that we do is like it's AI powered with a like a part-time contractor person. I can get these people with master's degrees in the Philippines, and
Yeah.
then I give them the AI system, the prompt to follow.
Yeah.
And so we're processing, we have, 2 or 300 updates coming in from all our founders every month. And it's kind of like, it's a lot to process. And so, the contractor our portfolio manager looks through everything, processes everything, and then basically offers help. Like, well, I see like X, Y, and Z. And you put everything we can do into the context window of AI at Team
Yeah.
Ignite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, what do you really need from me? You really need like intros.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Intros.
fundraising intros, customer intros, and talent intros, right? Me
Intro.
advising you on how to like run your company, like you know how to do that way better than I do. In fact, if I had a founder struggling with some of the stuff we've talked about in the podcast, I'd be like, go talk to Chris.
Yeah.
Like he's been there and done that. And like, oh, go watch, by the way, I interviewed him on my podcast, and you can go listen to the podcast and learn a ton just by like hearing his experiences. That's another way to add leverage in Team Ignite.
Yeah, and you do. You add a lot of value to us as a team and as a founder, but also as an investor too, like as an LP. I mean, just like it's a great your gift of networking. I mean, it's unbelievable. So yeah,
Thanks, man.
appreciate you for that.
Gosh, I'll pay you later for all the kind words, but
I take payment in the form of whiskey. So
exactly. What's a book or framework you revisit regularly?
okay, let's go back to what I said at the earlier, like Steve Krug's "Don't Make Me Think." That's a must read. I 3 or 4 times a year go back and reread Jeff Bezos's. He has a lot of really great letters to investors, but his 2016 one I thought was his best ever.
Really?
Just such a good, like, and this was back when he was like hardcore operating Amazon.
At the top of his game. He hadn't quite started retiring out in 2019 when he started kind of pulling back. That was still
this is like peak Bezos.
Yeah.
This is peak Bezos. Yeah, like really, really good stuff. But I mean, his 2015 letter, his 2017 letter, 2014 letter, they were all really good. But
I need to go back and reread all his letters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, they're just really exceptional. Like good insight into like someone who's thinking big picture about the world, and thinking in terms of structure and value-based thinking.
Why did he retire? You talk about Elon not retiring because he just like loves the thrill of first principle value creation and
Yeah, but I mean, did he really retire? I mean, he's got like 4 or
Blue
5
Origin
new.
going. Yeah. Yeah.
He's in a lot of stuff right now. So I don't think he's actually retired. I think he's actually involved in a lot of stuff right now.
And maybe
I think
Amazon
he's
got too big to kind of do day one kind of big picture kind of
yeah,
stuff.
too hard to do the stuff that he probably loves doing, which is, building something new, because he's in AI now. He's in AI, and Amazon has a big AGI push right now. He's in, Blue Origin. He's invested in a ton of startups. So yeah, I think he's still in the game.
Nice. And then is
And
there anything else?
last one is Crossing the Chasm. It's a really good product market fit book. I'm sure most people who are listening have read it, but definitely understanding the difference between a technology enthusiast, an early adopter, and then the chasm between the early adopter and the early majority is such a valuable concept when you're thinking about product market fit. I come back to that a lot.
Yeah, and back to our kind of portfolio thinking of expanding to new verticals and categories, you're basically crossing the chasm over and over again.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Each time you go into a new segment, it's crossing the chasm.
yeah, you kind of have to figure out where, are we in the early majority phase in this new segment or category, or are we kind of like in the early adopter segment, kind of knowing where the market is?
Yeah. And a lot of times you're like, yeah, you haven't crossed the chasm. Most of the time you haven't crossed the chasm. Even if it's something like at UserTesting, we sold UserTesting to SMBs and mid-market, and now we want to sell into enterprise. And the way that enterprises buy and the way that they do user testing and the way that they buy software products, completely different. I mean, it was actually brutal for us to cross the chasm at user testing.
Yeah. Which B2B company do you admire most right now?
Okay, so my wife and I our guilty pleasures. We play a game called Clash of Clans. It's run by a company called Supercell.
Yeah. I know the head of VC there who was at Club Ignite in November. You guys probably got the invite to that. That was really fun.
Awesome. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so they were acquired by a Chinese company, but the operations are still largely run out of Scandinavia, and they're
Right.
just really good. I really admire their community building. They just do such a good job of gathering feedback from the community, looking at metrics, and coming up with like super clever product solutions to the problems that have come up from the community. It's just
I'll
like
need to
very,
play that.
very
All my kids play that.
yeah,
Even all 3 of them. And I haven't
yeah.
jumped on it yet, but maybe I'll jump on and play with you.
Well, as an adult, it's great because you can play for like 3 minutes at a time, and
Yeah, it's
because
like a
that's
quick match and
right, quick match
yeah,
and you're done, right, and then you don't have to think about it again.
I like that.
So yeah,
Yeah, I hate
it's great.
my main game is Escape from Tarkov, which I think we've talked about, which is
Yes,
like,
nice.
my friend and I will jump on at 10 PM at night and it's like, oh crap, we've played 1 match and it's 11.
Right.
Like it's such a time commit.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
and we love games like Rocket League where you can kind of jump in and play a match and it's 5 to 7 minute and you can always jump off.
Yeah, well, in college, I played a game called Unreal Tournament. I was ranked
Yeah.
number 3 globally so I was a really good player. So I love games. I just,
You don't have time.
with
Yeah.
kids,
No,
there's
I
no
get it.
time.
Yeah.
There's no time. Yeah.
No, I get like sometimes like, because I work 7 days a week. I basically work a 7-7-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's not a 9. What is it? 996. Is it?
996, that's the Chinese one.
Yeah, I'm like a 957.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
basically work every day. And so like I'm able to kind of like get into this rhythm of every day I try to live like I'm retired, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Great.
And I try to always live like I'm a billionaire already. Like, what would I do today if I was a billionaire? Yeah, I'd meet some founders. I'd do the podcast and like, talk to some LPs and like, I play video games. And sometimes my kids, I kind of try to live almost every day is the same for me.
Yeah, that's good, man.
It's the same
I mean,
thing,
you're kind
7
of living
days
the
a week.
life. Yeah. You got this great house and a great place in California. I mean, you got the dream life.
No, it's like I'm living like I would actually pull back on Team Ignite a little bit if I, was already successful at it. Like, and I had, 100 million in the bank. I'd still do it though.
Yeah.
I
You
just have
absolutely
more
would.
humans and AI doing everything else for me. And I'm in this journey of automating everything about Team Ignite. So like I just show up and all I have to do is like 3 things in a day. Meet a founder or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. Record 1 podcast like I'm doing now. And then meet an LP or 2.
Yeah.
And everything else is like just taken care of.
Yeah. But
That's the
we're
dream.
builders. I mean, a lot of our purpose comes from adding value to the world. So
Right.
if we weren't doing that, what would we spend our time on? Right. I mean, reading books. I mean, who wants to do that? Let's build stuff. I think
I like to build
we're both
stuff.
cut from that
It's
cloth.
fun. It's actually it's this vision I have for Team Ignite, which is like everything is like an AI and a process, and there's like this system where it just runs. And
Yeah.
I could literally tell my LPs, I could step away and this thing would just run and just kick off cash,
Yes. Yeah.
you know?
Great.
And like you
Great.
could just put
So
money
good.
into this machine that is Team Ignite. And because of all the AI and software that we've built and all this process automation I've done, I literally don't even have to, like, I'm just a figurehead.
Yeah.
And just everything just kind of runs without me.
Yeah. Keep us on the LP list. I'm fully sold on that vision.
Nice. Love it. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll definitely. Yeah. That's another cool thing about being a VC is like now that I've backed 300 founders, there's going to be some percentage of those that'll be investors in the future.
For
future
sure.
Funds. Yeah.
Absolutely there will be. Yeah,
totally.
for sure.
So last question. What will UX design and research look like 5 years from now? And maybe even 10 years from now, if you kind of realize your vision for Theysaid?
Yeah. I mean, this is rapid fire. It's push a button, get an insight. That's it.
Yeah.
Push a button, get it. No one wants to do research. We'll build software will exist that lets anybody, like a camera, open the camera, get a picture, click a button, get an insight.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that's where we're headed.
Well, Chris, thanks so much. This was definitely a longer episode than usual, which is a good indication of how much fun I had. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, likewise. Really appreciate you inviting me, and thank you for being a great supporter, investor, and yeah, you've been a great partner to the company. So really appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right.